Hey, thanks for coming on.
Hey, you bet, Clint. Happy to be here.
So we've known each other a little bit, but for the audience and for myself and everybody else, this is like a big introduction to the Silicon Slopes community here. I think you've got a really incredible company on your hands and just closed around.
That's right.
Tell us about Paramify and how you came to be CEO and co-founder of this thing. You co-founder or you founder?
I'm the founder. Yeah. And Tyler's co-founder, right? But I've been with it for a long time.
Yeah.
Right?
Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, about 18 years ago, not far from where we are today, I dropped an acceptance letter into a little mailbox, the postal box, whatever it was, my acceptance letter to PricewaterhouseCoopers as a systems and process assurance associate, like IT auditor, right? But for consulting. And so, like, I remember dropping it in and feeling like, kind of just like, didn't feel good.
Wait, it was like so they'd offered you a job.
Yeah.
You were responding saying, I accept.
Yeah. Because what happened was, like, I always thought I would go into finance. Like, you know, I love banking. I love finance, right? But what happened was when I would take my classes, I was thinking like, dude, I don't know
like finance.
Yeah. Or like,
nobody likes finance, dude.
Yeah. I'm like, and I already know kind of how to like sum on a spreadsheet, and you know, there's not really much in terms of skill. And I had to do a programming class, and I took it. I'm like, hey, that at least there's some skill here. And so I kind of flip-flopped my degree, and then I had kids like on the way. And then I'm like, oh shoot, like I got to get a job. I got to do something with my life. And I don't know, there's some cool people at PwC, and I felt like I vibed with them, and I was like, great, like, yeah, let's go. And so I took the job, but I had no idea. They're like, so what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't even know. And then when I got there, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is the worst. This is the worst possible thing, because I didn't really understand it. I was, you know, IT audit, it's really hard. And, you know, they put you out and you're starting to do audits and you're looking for what could go wrong in a system and you have no idea. And so I'm just, you know, just really bummed out at my job, like at the very beginning. So I stayed with it because I needed to pay for my kid, right?
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, so I stayed with it, and I did good enough not to get fired. I tried to start another company with another guy that I met. It was like Priceline for local merchants. Turns out that local merchants don't want to compete on price, right? So no one was ever going to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. And then Groupon came out at the same time, and they were killing it, right? I was like, okay. Anyways, I did good enough there where I got some technical skills while I was doing my IT audit job, working for like big time clients, you know, in the Bay, and doing good enough not to get fired, you know, but really tired, right? I think I hung up the other startup when I took out a data center with a bad script that I wrote. It wasn't like the whole data center, but a rack. Like it just basically.
Wait, what do you mean you took it out?
Yeah. So I'm not good at coding.
You just, you gave it a virus?
No.
And it shut down?
Well, I would like to say I did it on purpose, but I just forked a process and I had no upper bound on it. And it just kept going. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, this is so hard. And so I kind of like hung that up. But at that time, I was like just saying, Angie, I hate this job. And she's like, what do you hate about it? I'm like, just generally, it just hurts. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you got to get specific. And so I'm like, okay, well.
And Angie's your wife,
Angie's my wife. Yeah. Still married. She's still with me. Unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway, I kind of just started focusing on, I'm like, okay, like, well, I hate this. And I'm like, can we make this better? And all of a sudden, like I had a pretty cool career. Like, cause I would focus on like, hey, this sucks. Guess what? It sucks for everybody else. You can make it better. And so I had a great career in cybersecurity. And I got to work at cool places like Google doing it. I got to work at American Express doing really technical stuff. And then I started to get into more strategic IT security at American Express. And then I met a guy named Avi Pandit who was kind of the head of audit at Adobe, or the IT, risk management there. And he said, I'd like you to, help us build this out. And so I got to meet with a lot of like really smart people. A lot of those guys have started companies here in Utah, right? And it was just a really great experience because Adobe was going from shipping DVDs to cloud security, right?
Yeah.
And so security is not a nice to have, it's a must have at that point. And so I was doing good. I architected something called the Common Controls Framework with a lot of people. We open sourced it. It was really good, and it was going well. But then I got acquainted with the other F word. It's called FedRAMP, right? Yeah. I don't know if you know what that is, but FedRAMP is what's required if if companies want to do business with the federal government.
Yeah.
So if the White House is talking to the Pentagon, those are government networks, like super secret networks. Like, so DOD's is called NIPRNet, right? There's something.
What is it called?
NIPRNet, right? Yeah. It sounds like a bad word, right? But NIPRNET. And there's acronyms. I actually don't know what they stand for, but there's.
I doubt they do know what they stand for.
There's things like CyberNet, right? So if you're going to send in like an attack package to a F-35 or something like that, right? Those are not public networks, right? Those are not public networks. Those are government networks.
Yeah.
And so what happened was about 20 years ago, or 15 years, whatever it is, I don't know. When AWS came into the fore,
sure,
right? Governments were like, hey, this whole like S3 and like EC2, this is like way better than what we've got, and we'd like to be able to use it. And so bossy bureaucrat says, no, you can't connect with that because that's not authorized. And I'm like, okay, well, what if we make them go through a really painful process? And then the bureaucrat's like, okay, tell me more.
How painful are we talking?
Yeah, like thousands of pages of documents, right? Hundreds of requirements.
We don't hate government.
Yeah. Well, like the truth is that it's really good. Their framework is really good. Just the way they serve it up is really overwhelming and really hard. And the people who do it, it's not really an integrated process. There's not like hey, we want to make sure people understand everything and that we do this in the most seamless way possible. And so when we're talking about thousands of pages, and let's say you have a data center, right? Or maybe an application within a data center, right?
Yeah.
Or that's okay. Yeah. An application that's served on a blade chassis, that's within a rack, that's within a data center, that's over networks, right? It's just, there's a lot that can happen in there, right? And so, I found that my team was spending about 85 to 90% of budget on paper chase, right?
Yeah.
And it just, it's such a dark place, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Sucks.
Soul sucking,
legit, like a Dementor, man. It's just like they're just sucking your will to live, and people burn out quite a bit. And so I was like, all right, I was kind of, all right, we did this cool thing with CCF, and I was really interested in hedge funds. And so like I wanted to start my own hedge fund. And so I was like doing that. I was trying to build a track record. I'm like, hey, let's go get money. And anyways.
What do you think makes a successful hedge fund?
Oh, man. I don't know.
Don't you think? Because again, it's not like finance is not. It's not like the smartest people are in finance. Yeah. Like you said earlier, it's not a complicated job on its face.
Who's successful?
But you can lose tons of money.
Yeah.
And make tons of money.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like that's tied to competence.
Yeah. I didn't feel really good about it. I wanted to feel good about it, but yeah, LPs don't have to win for the GP for the partner fund to win, right? You have assets under management, and that whole concept, I just hated it. So I read every single Warren Buffett letter,
That's cool.
That was really important to me. I really liked it. I was really passionate about it, but ultimately I was just getting so tired of this compliance thing. I was like, I just want to do something else. And so I'm like trying to get people to, I decide I'm going to do my hedge fund. I'm done with Adobe, right? What happened is my boss left. And then my friend and I, Prashant and I, were both basically, kind of the director level. And they're like, well, they went with Prashant, which was the right idea, right? He was in San Jose, and he's just really brilliant. He's leading things for product security at Salesforce right now, and he's just awesome. Anyways, I was kind of like, we don't have your position anymore. Do you want to be like a program manager? Do you want to do something else? And I'm like, nah, I'm done. Right. So I left, and I was going to do the hedge fund, and I like take people out to lunch. And then they said, yeah, I'm not going to give you any money. Hey, will you do FedRAMP for me? And I'm like, that's a stupid idea. That's a stupid idea, Brad. Brad's probably going to listen to this. No. And he's like, all right. And he's like, I'm going to do this hedge fund. It's awesome. Do you want it? He's like, nah. He's like, if you want to do FedRAMP later. It was like 3 months later. It's like, it's a day in October. I remember 7:32 a.m. on my phone because I'd lost already a ton of money. Like for me, it was like a lot of money.
Yeah.
It was a big drop. I made a stupid bet. I made some good bets that were actually stupid, just lucky idiot outcomes. And so I conflated that with skill, which gave me the hubris to start it.
It's a crazy, hedge funds are so crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's wild. I love it, man. It's
incredible. It's incredibly fun. But you can see why they're all addicted to cocaine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, for sure, because I was like, oh my gosh, that's a huge loss. Anyways, it's 7:32 a.m. and Brad texts me in the morning, hey, I need to talk to you a little bit about, this FedRAMP thing. And I'm like, okay, I call him and he's like, listen, just throwing it out there. He's like, give me a rate. And I'm like, here's my rate. And he's like, done. And I'm like, damn it. I'm like, no, here's my rate. And he's like, look, whatever, we'll figure it out. And so that was the beginning of it, because what I did was I said okay, so you asked what Paramify is, but I just gave you a huge long backstory. Sorry, guys, but that's what it is, right? It's like, can I make this easier to manage, right? Here's thousands of pages of documents. What's going on in there? And so I went right into it. I looked to see, hey, I did some very embarrassing things. I'm not going to tell anyone about it, right? But I was trying to make it easy for me to understand.
Yeah.
And then finally, there was a few weeks of hard meetings where they would check status. Hey, how's it going, Kenny? And I'm like, it's going just fine, man. It's going fine. They're like, do you have anything to report? I'm like, yeah, my report is it's going fine, right?
Yeah.
It's going good. But I'm like, what am I going to do? So I'm trying to figure it out. One evening, probably 3 a.m. something, the entrepreneur like, hey, it's working. This is something I could joke.
It's always 3 a.m., dude.
Yeah, it's always 3 a.m., maybe 2:32. Yeah. Who knows, right? I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, there was, and I had something that was, it was gonna be valuable, right? And I started showing people, and they were like, all right, we love it. I'm like, okay, great. I'll never do that again. Back to the hedge fund. And then people called me and they said, hey, do you do this like SOC 2 or do you do ISO? And I'm like, no. And then I ended up working for them and reconfiguring my thing to work for them. Yeah. So I worked with Omni. I worked with Podium, and it was just I was like, okay, well, you know what? I might have something, but I still wasn't interested because I'm like, starting business is hard.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I built a platform that made it really easy to manage compliance documentation, in particular for FedRAMP.
Yeah.
It was really crappy platform, and I looked for co-founders, right? For a long time. Started with co-founders, we didn't work out. Multiple times paid people, it didn't work out. I'm using my savings little by little, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh man, I better figure this out. And then, I found one guy, his name was Jacob West, a great person, great guy, great engineer. And I met, he was younger, but that was where I wound up, because every engineer in 2021 is asking for like 500,000 in cash and then also like 20% of the company. Or I'm like,
Yeah.
"Dude, you're taking no risk, man." But they're like, "Oh, well, that's what it'll be." And I'm like, okay. But I found an engineer that was going to be pretty good. And we got really excited. He tragically passed away.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Tragically passed away. And it was like just really, really sad, right? And I'm just like, dude, it's just so hard. I brushed over years of like pain and like figuring it out, and some excitement and pain, and some excitement and pain. And then, anyways, I got acquainted with my co-founder, Tyler, who is kind of a unicorn. He's a great designer and also a good engineer, which
Oh,
you
yeah,
just
that is
don't.
a unicorn.
Yeah. Just really, really good guy. And so we built Paramify, as scrappy as possible. Signed big clients, churned big clients, got those big clients back. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's just wild, right? So now what Paramify does is we take that process of managing all of that documentation to months, even years, millions of dollars. Typically, these are big budgets that people throw it at because they're just go away. I don't want to do it. I'll do anything. Just make it go away. Right? For these big opportunities in government, we're taking that process to like hours, right? Even less, right? And so get you to the 5-yard line in like right away, and it's just like a tush push into the end zone. That's what we tell them. Right.
Well, they always say like the best companies to start are the ones that are like, it relieves a lot of pain for your customers, solves a lot of problems, and it's like really, really hard. Like it's complex what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Like you have a moat in that not a lot of people even know what FedRAMP is or this whole compliance. Whenever there's good, like not a lot of people even know about that, right? And so when they start companies where they have to start interacting with that, like they need you.
Yeah, it's really nice because when we would talk to people at first, I was like, okay, well, we have some crazy asks from our customers. Customers ask for the craziest things sometimes, and it's wonderful. I'm not disparaging them, but they have great imagination. I'm like, wow, that's actually a great idea. Like that'll be hard, right? We're going to need to raise money. We're going to need to do it fast, right? And so we had bootstrapped for so long.
How long did you bootstrap?
I bootstrapped up until the end of May last year. Okay. And then we found like that's when it was really hard at that point. So we needed to hire people, and I was just paying me and Tyler and Dave at the time. That's all we were doing. And then what happened was we weren't FedRAMP yet. So like if FedRAMP companies were going to use Paramify, they can't go to Paramify. Because we're not FedRAMP. Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, we weren't authorized on FedRAMP. So we're like, okay, we have to deploy Paramify on-prem, right? Or like do a self-hosted version of that. And Tyler's like, I have no idea how to do that. And so we started working through a lot of it. But then my friend Mike Cook, he's a brilliant DevOps guy. He'd worked at Adobe, was at SoFi. And I'm like, hey, do you want to take like a fifth of your pay and come and join for like a chunk of equity? He's like, a fifth of your pay? Tell me more. Go on. This sounds awesome. But he'd seen I asked him earlier that year about the product, and he saw it, and he's like, that's actually kind of cool, right? And he became a believer. I'm like, we gotta pay for him. And then my friend Adam joined, who's like brilliant brain with product and marketing. And I had no idea. I used to think like I've spent no money on marketing, nothing. I'm like, that's not good, Kenny. You gotta ship it out. I'm like, okay. And so I made some hires, and we raised a safe in a few days, just $350,000 and just a discount only. And then we went.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, discount.
That's clean.
Well, it was good because we had these great, we had great names already that were like, hey, we're interested if you can do this. But secretly, we had no idea. I had no idea how crucial that was. We would have ran out of money like very soon after that. And we wouldn't have been able to deliver for some of our bigger customers that came on. We had Cisco come on, and, now we have, there's some pretty awesome logos, right, that we've got, right? But that was it. And then we went cash flow positive for a little bit, but then we're like cash flow positive revenue wise, but we're like, wait, we actually have to collect that money. And then getting that when you're like nobody and you're like talking to enterprises, they're going on vacation. They don't care, right? If you're not going to make payroll, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm like, oh, there's that aspect. But when really things started to take off for us, we GA'd in October with, Mike Cook. It was just with Mike Cook who came on, and we had our product that was actually, you can use this without like a super white glove experience, kind of, right? If you kind of know what you're doing. And our whole push is like, it's going to be a lot of self-service. It's not going to be self-service at first. It's going to be a very white glove experience. And then you move to, a self-service model. And so at that point, we only had 3 customers. Our biggest one was churning, right? At that point, I mean, I got told off by this guy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like this big. And then unfortunately, that guy's not there anymore. So that's too bad for him. But we recently got them back. But so stressful. But once we got our product to GA, we started and we did some marketing.
Wait, you got to explain what GA is.
Generally available. Yeah. That's what we said, right? Like, hey, you can use this. And we did some marketing, like just a few Google ads, like people frantically searching FedRAMP SSP template, right? That's what one of our customers said. I was frantically searching that and you guys showed up. I'm like, okay, great. That's awesome. And we closed them. Things really started to take off, right? I got acquainted with Mike Schreiner, who was an executive at Divvy, who really, I couldn't believe like he was interested because he was consulting with like a lot, at least a dozen other companies. There's people, he had offers, right? And when he came in on the demos, when he was consulting for me, he saw people just like bust out laughing when they saw the demo. They'd like some people even get emotional. And he's like, I've never seen this. And he said, I have to be a part of this. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you like me too? You like us too? It was just, since then, we've just really, we've gotten through the $1 million ARR, right? And at that point, we had a really compelling story.
Yeah.
To your point about like, no one knows about FedRAMP, right? The FedRAMP market, when you look at it, people would say like, it's not really interesting, like 50 million, 100 million, maybe $200 million opportunity. That's not really a venture opportunity. I'm like, no. That's just what the enterprise clients have to do. There's like governments that have to do that have to ATO their systems, and worlds without number, right?
Yeah.
There's like systems. And so our investors, right, were like, you know what? What's cool about this is you're in this niche market. It talks about this in 0 to 1. The more niche you are, the stronger the network effect is going to be. Like Slack, like, hey, everybody, I want to use it. And so I was like, hey, if we can get a big name and if we can make it something that they love, right, then guess what? Another big name that's similar to them, they're going to love it too. And that's just kind of what's happened. And you have this really strong network effect where people go, I'm not going to do this unless we're using Paramify, right? Which is just super cool to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just such a strong network effect there. And then we have all these adjacent opportunities, right? So it's like, it was good that we were able to kind of get product market fit before we hired a bunch of people. I think in Carta, the Carta data showed that most companies that do Series A have about 17 people on the day they do Series A, the day that they get the check. We were already past that before we got our seed checks, right? And I think a lot of that was because, that we had people that were willing to go super scrappy mode with us, and we just have this need, right? We got to go get it, right? And so it's just, I think I'm glad we postponed as long as we could.
Yeah. What advice would you have for entrepreneurs around raising money? Because and your recent round albums in that.
Yeah, Next Frontier Capital also.
Next Frontier.
Great people.
Like, what was that process like? How do you choose albums? Obviously, a local firm. Next Frontier, where are they from?
They're also Mountain West based, but they're really tied in with government, right? And so great people. We love our investors so much. We have really good relationships with them. They've been awesome to talk to, and as a resource, they've helped us. They've sent customers our way. It's just such a good fit. So I think what was interesting about Diogo at Album was that he was. You saw all these people that would say, $100 million, $50 million, that's not really a big opportunity, FedRAMP, right? I think, and they would ask all these questions like, like they just got out of an MBA school, you know what I mean? Like, we're looking for what's obvious. And I'm thinking, no. Like, sorry, I mean, I don't mean to sound like a jerk or anything. It's just like people would ask questions and I'd be like, dude, you don't get it. But, Diogo also was like, I don't know. But then he called me back. He's like, you know what? I get it. He's like, because, and I'm like, yes, you get it. Mm-hmm. And so that was awesome to have someone who understood me, who's going to trust me, as a founder, and who's going to just take this thing to the moon. Right. Like, it's just people I want to work with. Yeah. Right.
He's just such an excellent guy.
Yeah,
such a lovable guy.
Yeah. So I just wanted to be working with him. I wanted to do something great for him. Yeah. As far as advice, like going into it, I think that you have to decide what your motives are. I think when I started, remember like 2019, 2020, I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to do a hedge fund. In 2020, even though I had some success, it wasn't until like 2021 when I was like, dude, you know what? This is actually kind of fun, right? Mm-hmm. Like I like making people happy, and it took a while to get through this thick skull, right? Mm-hmm. And then I got serious, right? And I'd already wasted a lot of money, right? At my own personal savings because no one's paying me, right? So I think it's really important that founders get really clear about product market fit. They get really clear that they're solving a problem that needs to be solved. You're not building something that's looking for a problem to be solved, right? I don't know where you are on the crypto religious debate, right? But like crypto is really cool. But I think a lot of the applications I've seen are building awesome technology that's looking for a problem to be solved, right? Like you can already send money to Guatemala, right? Like, but it like efficient. And I'm like, whatever. Yeah. People, you can already do it, right? There's already a mechanism to do it. To me, it like had to like yell at me, Kenny, like look at like how painful this is. Like, hey, we can do this. And I'm like, and you just need that because. And
do you do it on the blockchain? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just, no, I was just saying I have super ADHD.
No, I hear what you're saying. No.
You're looking for a problem to be solved. And I think that's hard, right? So you're going to be looking for money. You're looking for, how do I optimize my pitch deck? How do I fool people into thinking that I'm it, right? I'm him or I'm her, right? You know what I mean? I think that that's fine, right? If that's what you want to do, but it's so much easier when you've got a great business and then the right partners will come. Yeah. Right. I didn't go to any pitch school, right? I didn't do any of that. Not that maybe it's something I should do, right? But I kind of just know the domain. So if you have domain expertise and you know something, and you'll be able to see it. And so you just gotta prove it. You gotta work through that product market fit before you're talking about taking money. I decided that I didn't want a lifestyle business. That's not what I'm in it for. I'm in it now for the mission. Like I want to free the captives, right? I don't want people to have to go through a crappy job where they're at 2 a.m., writing, like I use Okta for the 59th time in a different, it just sucks, right? And even if it might be important, what you're doing is just, you want to make it better. So definitely our mission is really the part of the reason we decided to scale this thing. We want to help as many people as we can. So otherwise, it would just do like, solopreneur thing and don't take money.
Well, here's the other catchphrase that gets thrown around a lot now is AI.
Uh-huh.
And I imagine that's pretty useful for your company, isn't it?
Totally. We have some AI applications, and we're really excited about it. You can do a lot more with AI. Here's the thing. There's a couple things. It's really important that you understand the personas of like your user base, right? So Paramify has lots of different personas. We have auditors that are motivated by different things, right? We have GRC or GRC people, which is governance, risk, and compliance people. They're motivated by different things. We have people that need to use the tool that absolutely hate security and want to get it. Maybe they don't hate security, but they have a job that's actually cool. That's not stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you have to understand what's the motivator for all of them. Okay, so the big motivator for all of them when it comes to audit and compliance is accuracy and completeness. And that's the one thing that AI can be, it's hard. Accuracy, completeness, right? So you have to train and, LLMs are one thing. They're incredible. LLMs are great as long as you have really good data, right? AGI, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Right. Those are different things. So LLMs, as long as you have great data coming in, it can be really good. So people can say, hey, can you take our documentation and, Paramify that? And we're like, yeah, we can, but it's better if you just start, with us and go through the normal procedures, which don't take very much time at all.
Yeah.
Right. And just kind of work through it and iterate and improve. The problem is that when you're managing thousands of pages, a big stack like that, I mean, it's all digital, right? But still, you're copy pasting a stack that if you printed it would be this big. Guess what? There's going to be problems there.
Yeah.
Because it's manually maintained. And so garbage in, garbage out. And it's pretty funny, like what AI can do some pretty cool things, but you have to train it. So we do a little bit of it, but it's really, we have an AI that does this and an AI that does that and an AI that does this. And it's really expensive to run. So you kind of, I don't know if you've seen the Zoom link, you know, or the Zoom, like in Zoom, there's a little, enable this feature, right?
Yeah.
And that's because it's a lot of compute.
Yeah.
Right. It's really expensive. So if we can get a great outcome, we're going to do it. And so we do have some things, but I don't think you'd be able to say, hey, AI or chat, make me a competitor to Paramify. I would love that. Right.
Yeah.
But
not quite.
It's not quite there. AGI is different. Right. So accuracy is super duper important. And therefore, we have to be really careful about how we use it. Also, you have to be careful about, how you're protecting, how you're using AI. Like what kind of data are you putting where? And so we have to be very careful about that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is another thing, right? There's like a Paramify certification for that, right? There's an ISO certification with AI, and that's probably something we'll help people with too,
What does the next year look like?
Next year, we are going to be expanding the team. We'll fill out the rest of the squad. We have most of the key players that we want. But yeah, we're just executing on this federal initiative. We'll get Paramify will be FedRAMP, right? We'll get our SOC 2, all that stuff. But we are really going to try and own this little market, right? And just kind of be the answer.
Yeah.
And so that's what we have to execute on. It's there, the opportunity's there, and then we'll be looking into, building out partnerships. We have great partnerships already with some of the top firms, audit firms, and on the implementation side. And it's just wild. It's wild. It's so awesome, fun. Man. It's amazing.
I can see you're super excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pumped.
Yeah. 100.
It's incredible, man.
We are, man.
Incredible. Yeah. Well, Kenny, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah. You bet. Thanks for having me, Clint.
Yeah.